Hey, I'm going to tell you the top 7 things you need to know to survive total collapse. What do I mean by total collapse? It could be any number of things. It could be war. It could be a sudden devaluation of the currency. It could be another Great Depression. Anything like that is going to massively disrupt your supply lines. And if you don't have some infrastructure in place to give you a buffer, you're going to be so stressed out about trying to find food and water in an emergency that you're going to have no place for providing your security and taking care of others. I don't know what it is, maybe the blood moons, but it seems like people are going crazy out there wanting to get ready for emergencies. And I've been really busy doing some private consulting and doing seminars on emergency preparedness. One of the issues I run into frequently is people not knowing what to get ready for. They don't get ready for an emergency because they don't know where to start. They're afraid the process is going to be very expensive, time-consuming, and disruptive. I totally get that. Most people can't move to the Utah wilderness to get away from all the threats they face. They've got mortgages, church, they've got ballet classes or little league coaching they have to do, and they've got to pay the bills, and they've got their jobs right here. They got to work. You can't just uproot and get away and then wait for doomsday. I understand that, and that's why I recommend a very systematic approach to getting ready for emergencies, and I focus on known risks. We know in the summer there's going to be hurricanes and tornadoes and possibly floods. We know in the wintertime there's going to be blizzards and ice storms and power outages. And you got to be ready for these things. There might be earthquakes. There might be coronal mass ejection events that cause the power grid to go down. Those things you don't know. Those things are rare occurrences, but they're bound to happen sometime. I recommend getting ready for known risks. Because to some extent, when you get ready for anything, you're ready for everything. That brings me back to the second coming of Christ. I know I have to address that because everybody's talking about it these days. I don't know when the second coming is going to occur. I know there's people out there who claim to know and are making very specific predictions about dates of when certain things are going to happen that indicate the second coming and the great tribulation of the world. All I know is that they've been predicting this for the last 2,000 years, and they've always been wrong. In fact, I think that when the guy says specifically when Christ is returning, that's when I know it's not going to happen. That's all I know. For all I know, it could be tomorrow, or it could be another 10,000 years. I simply don't know, and because of that, I'm ready for things that I know are going to happen. Okay, I know there's going to be blizzards and ice storms and power outages. I know I could run out of gas. I know I could get stuck in traffic, and that is a potentially lethal situation. If you get stuck in traffic or run out of gas in the Southwest desert in the summer, you better be ready for it. I recommend getting ready in a systematic way that doesn't disrupt your life and doesn't add a lot of inconvenience to your daily routine and that doesn't add a lot of expense. Now, I know what you're wondering. How can you prepare for emergencies and it doesn't cost anything? Well, consider that if you're taking money out of your bank account and putting it into your pantry in a rotating 6-month supply of food, you're going to eat that food anyway. This is money you're going to spend in the future anyway. All you're doing is spending the money in advance, in bulk, to supply yourself. And you get 3 main benefits by doing that. Number 1, you're spending the money now instead of later. And so because of inflation, it's going to be worth less later, so you get more for your money now. You also get more for your money by buying in bulk and getting discount prices. And finally, you have the certainty of the supply. You can get ready for emergencies and it really doesn't cost you any more than it would. In fact, it costs you less to be ready than it will later. Imagine trying to buy this stuff after an ice storm. Where are you going to get resupplied? The trucks can't move. They can't drive through the blizzard or 2 feet of snow to get to the store for you to get there to buy the stuff. The only way that you can get food in a shortage is to pay more than the other guy, so prices go up. Buy now, put it in the pantry. All you're doing is taking money out of the account and putting it into the pantry. And you still have the money, it's just not in the form of cash. It's in the form of food, water, supplies, batteries, that kind of thing. That's what I mean when I say that it doesn't cost you anything to get ready. There's some other things you can do to prepare that give you an immediate benefit. One of the common recommendations I have is for people to get ready by getting fit. My favorite way to get fit is strength training because the benefits are immediate and long-lasting. I don't have to wait for doomsday to benefit from a strength training regime. That's just an example of some of the things that you can do to get ready for emergencies that give you an immediate benefit. You don't have to wait until doomsday to realize the benefits of preparedness. All right, so let's get specific here. I've got 7 specific recommendations for getting ready in a systematic way. Number 1, identify the threats. Where do you live? What's the climate like? What is your job like? Do you have to drive a lot? Are you on the road all the time? Is your vehicle stocked for emergencies? Figure out what are the threats that you face on a daily basis and on an annual basis, and be ready for those, okay? Because those are the known risks. Number 2, secure your shelter. Most people expect me to tell them, you got to get food and water. But my question always is, where? Where are you going to put the stuff? Are you sure it's going to be there tomorrow if you put it there today? So secure your shelter. Make sure your home, your primary location, is safe and secure so that you can stock material in it. Number 3, stock food and water. I recommend 2,000 calories of food and 2 gallons of water per person per day for everybody in the family, plus half in case you've got guests. 2 weeks is an absolute minimum. Once you get some other things in place, then come back to this step and add another 2 weeks or a month until you've got a 6-month supply or a year-long supply. Remember, you're not going to waste any of that food. You're going to consume it. It's all going to get rotated in and out of your stock. Number 4, shore up your off-grid capability. You got to have backup systems in place. You need backup heating. And, okay, what if you are in a rural area and your well is on an electric pump? What are you going to do if the power goes down? How are you going to get water? How are you going to cook? What are you going to do about all the food in the freezer? How will you sanitize anything? How will you see in the dark? All these things are relevant in terms of shoring up your off-grid capability. Number 5, secure a safe retreat. Now, we've talked about bug-out locations a lot. Maybe now's a good time to pan around and show people where I live. Okay, I'm pretty much out in the boonies. My property goes all the way up to the hill and then over to the top of that hill. I've got about 100 acres here, and I'm surrounded by large tracts of land with other people who are prepared. So this is an ideal location to hole up if I have to. My plan is to bug in, but I realize that this area could be compromised. I'm not sure how. Maybe one far-fetched scenario is political instability, all right? And the government just confiscates my land. Then what am I going to do? I've got to have a place to go. Even though I live out here, I've got a backup location and a plan for getting to it. If you live in an urban area, you absolutely have to have that. While you're looking for a backup location, make sure that it is a minimum of 5 miles and maybe preferably 7 miles off of a major highway. Make sure that you can get to that location using different routes, and make sure that your alternate routes are not major highways because they're going to get jammed in an emergency. So make sure that you can get to it on a half tank of gas. If you can't, you need to extend the range of your vehicle or stash some gas along the way. And make sure you have a hard copy of a map that shows you how to get to where you need to go. Don't count on GPS and don't count on internet. Identify the triggers that are going to make you leave. Don't be making a decision about, should we leave? Should we not leave? You can't do that under stress. You're bound to make mistakes. Think of it ahead of time when you are not under stress, and identify those factors that when they fall into place, that's when I'm leaving. Number 6, develop a prepared community. Your neighbors are potentially your greatest asset in an emergency, but only if they're prepared. Okay, otherwise they're potentially the greatest threat to your security and your stock. Find friends and family that are willing to prepare with you, and then encourage each other and help each other get ready for emergencies. Number 7, learn self-defense. For most people, but not everybody, and I can't really give generalized advice about this out there because it depends on every individual situation and every individual person, okay? But for most people who are of sound mind and able body, I recommend that they get a gun and a carry permit, and that they get some tactical training, and that they take a basic self-defense course. You need to be able to defend yourself and to defend innocent third persons who can't help themselves. Because if you don't, who will? The harm's going to be done before the police get there. And in an emergency, they're not coming. They're already too busy somewhere else. You're never going to see them until they come to get your guns like they did at Katrina. Which weapons and ammo you get, that depends on so many factors. I hesitate to go into it. I will just say this. Whenever you decide what kind of gun and ammo to have, just make sure that if you're carrying it with you, if it's going to be your everyday carry gun, make sure that your weapon is something that's not going to be so bulky and heavy and inconvenient that you leave it behind, because then what's the point? One bonus here. Do get fit. That's usually a low priority because there's a lot more important things like eating and drinking and being warm and out of the weather, okay? But if you are fit, then it's not going to be a heavy burden for you to carry a 35-pound backpack from the highway back to your house, okay? Assuming you've got a backpack in the car, you should. If you don't have the capability of like joining a gym or something, then just get some cheap free weights and get into some strength training. Like I said earlier, the benefits of strength training are immediate. You don't have to wait for doomsday for it to give you some benefit, and they're long lasting. It brings your blood pressure down, it brings your weight down. I mean, there's all kinds of benefits to it. All right, another bonus. I know I haven't addressed vehicles, okay, but I was trying to narrow it down to 7. Arguably, this should be one of the others, but I'm giving it to you as a bonus. You need to have your car ready based on how you use it. All right, so we live out here in the country. It takes us 30 minutes to get to the nearest bread and milk. So when we drive, we're always going a fair distance away. 30 minutes doesn't sound like that much when you're driving, but try walking that same distance with a backpack. You've got to have food, water, possibly shelter. You need something you can light with. You need a little get-home bag. Make sure you've got that. Depending on the seasons, you may want to rotate in and out certain items like blankets and sleeping bag, that kind of thing. We've covered all this in other videos, but I'm just touching on it here because we're talking about getting ready for surviving natural or political disasters, okay? Remember, it is more blessed to give than to receive. But if you can't even help yourself, how are you going to help someone else in need? So get yourself ready for emergencies, and that way you'll be in a position to help everybody else too. All right, go to the blog, survivalnewsonline.com. I'll have some bonus information at the blog about getting ready for disasters and maybe total collapse. I'll see you there.